resources, limited time, and limited budgets, a few brave souls forge forward and don't ask for permission to make their stories come to life. Welcome to the Adventures in Backyard Filmmaking podcast. Here is your host, Jamie Francis.
Hi guys, thanks for listening to the Adventures in Backyard Filmmaking podcast. I'm going to keep this really short for this one. I have an interview with Scott McMahon from FilmTrooper.com. He's one of my favorite people that I've been following, and he's a big reason why I'm actually just starting this podcast in the first place. So I'm just going to keep it brief, get a pen and paper, some great tips on how to not only just make your movie, but to how to actually market it and ways to think about not just the pie in the sky dream of hitting in the festival circuit and getting big just like that. I'm actually going to pick up this interview kind of before the interview even started. We actually just started talking, and we started just kind of rambling about movies and how movies are made. I think we're at the start talking about editing systems or something. So I'm just going to, hopefully Scott doesn't get mad at me for this, but I thought the conversation was neat just off the start anyways. And here it is, my interview with Scott McMahon from FilmTrooper.com.
Yeah, I have an old computer. I have an old MacBook Pro. I still cut on Final Cut 7 and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, nice.
So, yeah, I haven't migrated yet.
Sorry, when I heard with the Final Cuts, I think the newer ones, they got a little bit, they took away some things. Like, I don't know, like I've heard the older ones are actually preferred. I don't know. For some people I talk to, but
yeah, there's sort of enough time has passed that really, if you want to go from Final Cut 7 to if you like that style of editing and organization, the next step up is really to go to Premiere CS 6 or 7, where the hell they call it now.
Yeah.
But the whole Adobe Cloud ecosphere has really taken over, where the old Final Cut 7 has left off. However, yeah. I think I understand what Apple was trying to do, but they really just had alienated the whole professional realm of editors that were, kind of used to editing a certain way.
Yeah, for sure.
But nobody cares. In the end of the day, nobody cares what you edited on.
Exactly.
Like, you can still the iMovie, and nobody cares as long as the stuff was put together.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when it was like there used to be the Mac. I mean, it's probably still around, but probably not nearly as big. But like the Mac versus PC thing, and it's like, what does it really matter at the end? Like you have a product in the end. Like is it based on the merit of that you edited on a Mac or a PC? Like what's it really based off of? I always thought that was a really weird argument.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've always been a whatever you have around, use that kind of guy. I
exactly. I don't have the greatest camera. I mean, I have my gear. It's good enough to get some stuff done, but I'm so far behind from all these people that have all these wonderful gadgets. But I don't want to feel like some kind of a sheep, running after the shiny object when I'm like,
yeah, the whole gear thing, right? Like the whole gear porn.
Yeah, I mean, believe me, I get excited. I just wish I just don't have all the, I just don't have all the cash to just go ahead and let's get it going, So
exactly. Yeah.
I'm very selective, and it's built over time, Like I got a small light kit that's inexpensive, whatever it is, a few lights here, a few equipment here. And next you have enough stuff. You're like, I have a lot of stuff. It's good enough to get HD online quality.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, you shot the Cube on? Like it was a Canon something, wasn't it?
It was just T3i.
T3i.
Yeah, Rebel.
Yeah, my brother. I've used it a lot. My brother has one. I had one earlier. I bought the 2Ti. Which doesn't have the flip out, which probably would have sucked on the Cube because you couldn't see yourself shoot it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. This is something I've wanted to do for a while, is do a podcast. Well, I did podcasts with my brother and other friends and stuff, but more random subject. And I never really could find something where I really wanted to delve into with like, but then I me and my brother, all we do is just talk about movies and making movies. And it's like, well, it's just kind of, it's there. And I recorded with my brother last weekend, and he's like, why didn't we do this like 5 years ago? Like, this makes no sense. This is like the most entertaining podcast I've ever been a part of. And so we had a good conversation about that. But yeah, so, and obviously when I started this, one of the first people I thought of was you.
Oh, thank you.
I love following your stuff. And I think we follow this like some internet marketers in the, listen to their podcasts and stuff. And
yeah,
I'm like, oh, hey, I remember that guy from that guy. And then I remember hearing your podcast, and I'm like, oh yeah, it all syncs together. It's all kind of like, it's almost like a small circle, but it's a big circle, I guess, too, for some of the bigger fish. But I'm fine with being a little fish.
Yeah. Well, I totally get it, and it's been great. I run this site FilmTrooper, and the quick of it was that it's kind of launched a little over a year ago, and it was in answer to, I always knew that. So I had finished this feature film, and it was called The Cube, and it was made for $500 with no crew, and it's a feature film. It's not a short film. It's 90 minutes, and I didn't think I could do it. I'm sure, I guarantee you, there's other people who have done it already, or made it for less expensively, or whatever it might be. The reality was, I didn't know if I could do it, and that was sort of a big breakthrough for me, because it opened the floodgates creatively. Because once I got through it, I was like, wait a minute, what other stories could I tell in a confined space, or just a single location, or something like that?
Exactly.
That I could push the boundaries of my skill set as a storyteller. Not that necessarily I'm great or anything like that, but it's one of those things, like I like the fact that it gives you this confinements, and then you're forced to like really try and not get all hung up on whether or not I'm going to do a massive crowdfunding campaign to like raise money. To make something that I have no idea if it's going to work or not,
Yeah, exactly. No,
so go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I love the idea of, I think these movies, especially like, you make it for $500 or even less or more, just a little bit more or whatever. But it really, I think it creates more creativity in a way. Like you're forced to think about things that you just can't throw money at, right? And that's what I just love, the idea of this, of these, just go out there and make something with, just the money you have in your pocket. I love that.
What's forced me to do is now I don't have to worry about. I'm going to backtrack here a little bit, so give the audience a little bit of understanding where everything's coming from. So I had gone to film school, and made a lot of short films, pretty crappy ones, but I made one that was decent, and then got hired at Sony PlayStation at the right time, the right place, meaning when it was just starting. Nobody knew what PlayStation was, and I just happened to be there to service the marketing department with video production needs. And so I was doing that during the day, and at night I was just having fun playing with all these toys that I didn't have a chance to play with them at home, in terms of like some bigger editing decks, digital Betamax decks to, this is before all the digital nonlinear editing stuff had come in. So it's still very old school, and the world of compression was still coming in. And way before After Effects, we were using Cosa effects, and then Adobe bought Cosa effects and turned it into After Effects.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I remember editing on Premiere, and Premiere at the time was amazing to have like 99 tracks of, that you can lay in, all these nested compositions way before After Effects. And then I had moved over to Media 100, which is, revolutionary at that time. Avid, we had an Avid, but it was like, we paid $200,000 for this gigantic editing suite. It was just crazy. And then out of nowhere, we were watching all this, the transformation of the digital video, the mini DV come in with the same quality as a beta, these bigger Betamax or beta cameras. And that was a big breakthrough in terms of watching these smaller DV cameras come in. And then all of a sudden Final Cut 1 comes out, and it was just, like in 9 days, it's just like boom, just kind of rattle things up. At the same time, I was working with a lot of 3D artists. So, we were working, in the early days with Silicon Graphics. There was actually literally a machine. You pay, $25,000-$50,000 for a machine to run this specific software. And then that eventually turned into Maya. And then some people were running 3D Studio Max. So we had studios that were running 3D Studio Max on the PC. And then all of a sudden, Maya was really expensive for a while. And then boom, came down in price. Like it was crazy because we used to meet with these sales reps that were, selling like $25,000 pieces of software that in overnight it dropped down to like $3,000.
Yeah.
So like, for a salesperson, the middleman, just seeing these people bounce around from like, hey, I'm pushing an Avid system worth $200,000 to like there is no salesperson that's pushing Final Cut, which is like available to buy online for a couple $100. It was just crazy. Just seeing like I said, those middlemen just disappear like overnight was crazy. So we happened to, be there at Sony, and I had an opportunity. I was there for like 12 years, and I got a chance to, work with the marketing department when I first started. But then at night, I was making these little movies, and some of the game producers saw what I was doing and asked me to make some movies for their games. And these were like the introductory movies, and then it turned into like some interstitial movies. And then one thing led to another, and next thing you know, I was running this huge department of talented visual effects artists and editors and compositors and just effects of all kinds. It was crazy. But the PlayStation 3 had a unceremonious launch because they rushed the hardware out and the software wasn't ready. A lot of bugs and stuff like that, and the economy crashed right at the same time. And in the video game world, everything's about the gameplay. Meaning that you can have the best looking graphics in the world, but if the gameplay is sluggish or just boring, people will they'll just click X. They'll be bored with it.
Exactly.
Which is interesting because when the iPhone, the app revolution came in, a single programmer can create a very interesting game for dirt cheap and sell it for 99 cents, and that just opened up this revolution for gaming. And the console became sort of how do I call it, was on the verge, because there was a time with the consoles, like there was a console war. Yeah. Meaning like, with the Nintendo came out, that was revolutionary. Then PlayStation dominated for a while. Then Xbox came out. Then the Wii came out. Like, what's up with that? Then like Kinect answered, and then then PlayStation answered back. So it was this three-way battle for the longest time. And but then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, was the iPhone app world came in and just like just took a huge chunk of that space out of there. But what we learned from this was that because I ran a department, what we called in the video game industry, we just considered it fluff. Like anytime you have a pre-rendered cinematic sequence, the movies were not that important to the game. Yeah, and they were developing more better techniques of utilizing in-game rendered engines through programming code to create these movie sequences as opposed to the full-blown pre-rendered sequences. So my department was, one of the first to be let go during this massive upheaval at a corporate entity like Sony. Anyhow, I always wanted to make, films. I mean, that's what you went to school for. I just happened to get hired by an entity that allowed me to make films. But now I was, kind of like on my own again, like, okay, what do I do? And I had built up a lot of, relationships in Los Angeles through my Sony contacts, and I had an opportunity to develop this independent comedy, American comedy, that got, I was able to pitch it to some very prominent producers. It got all the way up to like, MGM. But at the time, it was, the premise was a time travel comedy. It involves 4 guys going back in time to relive one day in high school in the 80s. During that time, one of the set of producers I was working with had gotten the film package to MGM, but they had a time travel comedy that involved one guy going back in time to fix 3 days of his life. But somewhere down the line, like a year and a half later or something, like 2 years later, a movie comes out, and it's called Hot Tub Time Machine, and it's got 4 guys going back in time. And I think the kicker was the poster, because
I think I saw this on your site actually.
Yeah. So my design for the poster as part of the pitch package back then was just the universal symbol for a man. Like if you go to the restroom, the restroom symbol, the little guy's circle head or the body. Yeah. So it said 4 of those guys lined up with a big plus symbol, with the universal symbol of the girl with a little flame symbol above her head to represent hot girl. So it's 4 guys plus 1 hot girl, another plus symbol, this swirly symbol called, and it says plus time portal equals do-over. That was my project. Hot Tub Time Machine had it when their poster came out. This was like 1.5 years, 2 years later. Their poster came out with like a little squirrel plus like Red Bull or something plus something else equals Hot Tub Time Machine. And I don't really think it was like straight out like nobody stole anything. I just think what happened was my package hit the table to MGM. They saw that, oh, you know, we already have a comedy. We already have like an 80s time travel comedy that we're working on. But I don't think they ever read through the package, and they never read through the script or anything like that. They just, you know, had to reject it right there because they had something in the works already. But as who knows in the development process, I mean, all they saw really was probably the poster design I gave, you know, and you know, I don't have any copyright, you know, clearance on saying, all right, let's make it 4 guys. Who knows where in the meeting something happened in the ether that says, well, hey, let's make it 4 guys. Yeah. And then when the poster came out, it could have just been something in the back of the guy's mind, like maybe not knowing where it came from, you know, just kind of designed it that way. Because it was a
kind of an ether, like just kind of like there. It's
yeah.
like,
you know, that stuff happens all the time. Yeah. And I think that's, I'm finishing up this book right now. It's going to be released in March. And I kind of described this in there, which is that talk about internet marketers. One of the guys we follow, Seth Godin, who's you know, has written so many books and definitely on this particular topic. Yeah. He says, you know, the pros. If you're a professional, you ship. Like whatever you're working on, you get the work done and you ship it. And that's the difference between like a wannabe and a professional. Exactly. And the reality is these guys in MGM, they had a team in place. They had the resources in place. They had, you know, everybody, all the things came together for them to ship their product, which makes them pros. That meant, you know, I just had something in development that got me pretty close, but it gave me some validation that I wasn't too far off. But from that experience, you know, attending the American film market, you know, trying to peddle around these films, that's when it got me turned on to internet marketing, because I was there meeting up with Stacey Parks over at Film Specific, and this is like when she just launched like her site, and just had I've been a fan of her books when she first came out with it, and you know, was one of her first members and so on. So I got a chance to meet with her at AFM, but she was on a panel, or she was moderating a panel, but one of these filmmakers was talking about how he made all this money selling all these DVDs through online marketing, like just selling them online. And the film wasn't particularly great. It was just a really quirky little, you know, comedy they had made. But because he had the savviness to use internet marketing, that just totally clicked. I was like, that's amazing. That totally makes sense. Like whatever the future is going to hold, stuff is going to be sold online eventually. So that's the bigger question, is like, if film is nothing more than a digital product, then how do the experts, how do online business people, online entrepreneurs, how are they selling digital products? Exactly. And then how can that be applied to your film product? And that sort of led me down this path of starting FilmTrooper to create a web resource to explore this question deeper and further. And using my, so, you know, years later, I just was frustrated because I didn't want to make a film sort of in the traditional sense of like, raising the money, like all these, everything seems to be so big. Like you got to go big, you got to get like raise all this money, you got to get all this cash, you got to get all these foreign pre-sales, like all that stuff is fantastic if you can put the team together. But as filmmakers creatively, sometimes we just get frustrated. We just want to barf something out, you know. We just want to creatively just go, I got to get something out there.
Yeah, that's interesting, because a lot of my projects, especially when I was younger, it was always, it was always the mentality of just, the frustration actually creates a lot of lots of product. Just the frustration over, just finishing things and stuff, and not wanting to go through the
it's kind of like a traditional means. Like the only thing that's been taught to us is like, this is how you make a film and this is how you sell it. Or like, this is how you play in that world. It never really seemed like to be another opportunity or another option.
Yeah.
And then, you know, so it was a breakthrough for me to be able to make this film, this feature film, The Cube. It wasn't intended that way. I mean, I wrote it to be small, but I thought I would have at least a little bit more help than I did. What happened was the lead actress that I was able to get, she was going to leave. She was going to go hiking in Nepal for a couple months. And I was like, she forced my hand in terms of like, I had a small bit of window to like shoot this film. And I was like, oh God, how am I going to do this? So I had to like realize that, you know what, I got to give it up to say, I'm just going to have to shoot a lot of static shots, meaning that the camera's on a tripod. I just hit record, just make sure things are in focus and set up a lot of my shots that way. And then really force myself to try to tell the story of it as effectively as possible in this style. And then anytime I wasn't, you know, in front of the camera, because I also acted in it. Obviously, if you have no crew, you're going to be one of the actors, so you throw yourself in there. So I just made sure that whenever I wasn't on camera, I gave me an opportunity to take the camera off the tripod and I can move it around. Now there was a few shots in there that I had some friends like help me out real quick. You know, like I just like will show somebody, even show my daughter, like, okay, I want you to move the camera this way. You know, just because I needed to have movement a little bit to pick up some of the shots, and you just kind of, but no formal crew whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, it was literally filming The Cube was literally using the Canon T3i Rebel, and I waited forever to like that camera to be available and to be inexpensive because it had one key factor, and that's the flippable LCD screen. Yeah, to be able to flip that over so I can see what's going on even when the camera's pointed at me was huge. Because I didn't have like, I didn't have the money, and I didn't want to set up another attachment of a movable LCD screen, you know, on top of it, you know. Yeah. Like, I personally, I hate a lot of gear, and I rather use as much available lighting as possible, or just the smallest microphones, the smallest camera. Like, as soon as they create like a really effective sort of depth of field lens for the iPhone, I'm all over it. Like, you know, that to me, that's going to be my camera. Like, I just personally like that it's just like not having a lot of mess, you know. So anyhow, so this the standard tactic of filming without a crew is simply you have to lock your shots down, and you got to plan creatively how are you gonna, you know, construct your scene with a lot of static shots. And then you know, put the camera on a tripod. I don't even have a really fancy tripod. It was just enough that has that's light enough, it's small enough, but yet it had a fluid head to it in case I needed to do some movement. So that was great. You put it on the tripod, you know, you flip the screen over, you kind of get your composition together, get your focus in, and to do focus, if you're an actor in front of it, I had this microphone stand that I was just like put like a card in or something that approximate where I was standing, and then I focus on that. So then when I removed the stand, I would be, you know, I stand into my mark and I'd be somewhat in focus. Not all the time, but, you know. That's a great idea, actually. You get close. Yeah. And then, you know, for the longest time, for my audio, I had another microphone stand, a boom stand, that I attached the microphone to. I was able to get sort of it's not a shotgun mic because I knew I wasn't going to be able to follow, you know, the voice patterns that well. So I got this other Rode mic. Oh gosh, you know, it's like an NT30. I forget the name of it. I don't even know what this is me. I don't even know all the technical terms. Like, all I know is like it has the recording diagram of a little bit more of a heart shape. So it's so it picks up a little bit wider range. So I knew that at least I got the microphone in the same vicinity, I'll have at least a better chance of catching decent audio. And that was placed off camera on a boom stand. With a sandbag holding, you know, making sure it didn't fall over. And that was going into a separate recorder. That was going into the Tascam DR100, I think. It's like basically the other equivalent to the Zoom H2N. Look at me, I don't even know what these numbers are. H4N, I think it's H4N, yeah. Yeah. So the interesting thing was, near the end of production, what I should have done the entire time, which I didn't think about until I listened to this interview with Ed Burns about his film, The Newlyweds. Or I think it's called Newlyweds, not The Newlyweds. He was mentioning, you know, they were running around with a Canon 5D, or Canon, again, forgive me, everybody. I don't know all the technical terms of these cameras. I think it's the Canon Mark. It's the Canon. Is it Mark? Whatever the hell it's called. The Mark III 5D. Everybody understands the 5D. So he was running around with his crew. He had one camera guy running the 5D, and for audio, they use these smaller Zoom H1 recorders. And they got like the powered lavalier mics.
Oh yeah.
That you get for like Radio Shack for like $15 or online. They have an Audio Technica one that's really good. It's like $15-16, and it comes with little, you know, because it's not running off phantom power, so you got to run it off this little battery. So he said they just hid that like in their clothes, and so each actor had their own little digital recorder tied to this lavalier mic. And so they were free to just go around the streets of New York and in restaurants and just act because, you know, there was no huge crew. It was like one guy with a little camera.
That's great.
5D. And the interesting thing about that is I had problems. For one scene, we tried doing wireless lavaliers, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And the interference signal was just a pain in the ass.
Yeah,
like it was like, never. I was like, ah. And so now to have these separate little H1 Zoom H1 recorders attached to every actor, it's like you're not going to get any wireless interference. You know, yeah, you might get. You have to be careful what kind of, you know, closed sound or rustling sound you might get. But my God, that was liberating. Like, this is insane. I can't believe you get these like inexpensive recorders, like recorders like what, $90. Yeah, the lavalier mics like 15. It's amazing, and you're free. Like you can go out anywhere, and nobody knows
about
it.
Avoiding the boom in the shot and stuff. Like
like you know, even like when you try to be small, like okay, I got my 5D, and then your boom operator, your sound guy, he's got this huge boom pole, and it's got this gigantic windscreen, you know, and it's like anything that brings attention to you is this thing, you know. I'm like, oh my God, you know, it's like anything not to bring attention to you is just really cool.
Yeah,
that's
for
just
sure.
me.
Oh no, I'm totally on the same page there, for sure. I really like your what you're trying to do, and I haven't actually saw the Cube yet, but I did watch the first 7 minutes.
Oh, cool.
And the trailer and stuff, and it looks great. I actually really want to check it out. I wanted to check it out today, but ran out of time. But I just what do you think is like the future? I mean, you've kind of delved into it, but like, you know, maybe something like what's going to happen with like theatrical? Like, is that something that people should think about at this kind of budget level, or? Like,
sure.
Is this? Yeah. I mean, is it? What would be a way to do it if?
Okay. I didn't really understand. Like I said, when I started FilmTrooper about a year ago, it was to have a platform to discuss, to share basically all my trial and errors, my failures with the Cube. Because number one, I made the Cube. I knew I was making it all wrong because I had spent many years prior to that developing a lot of different stories in terms of trying to place it in the market, the American film market, to sell it to. I was trying to create projects that my audience were foreign sales buyers or sales agents. Like, you know what I mean? It had there was no rhyme or reason for anything in terms of like the audience. And so when I made the Cube, it was just more of a creative frustration. It was like, okay, I'm going to make this really for me, and I figured out a way to make it for dirt cheap. Because I had accumulated the equipment over the years, I knew I could make something for inexpensive, $500. Honestly, most of the money, $500, went to this very important prop, which is this Buddha Naga statue that I had to spend like, you know, half the budget on to pay for, just because it was pivotal. I didn't have it, you know, so that's where the most of the money went to. Anyhow, so I knew I had all the equipment and I could make it, you know, in chunks at my own house. But I knew it didn't have a discernible genre. Like it's not like a flat out horror film. It's not like a flat out like hardcore suspense film, and it's not, you know, there's no stars in it, of course, you know, and
but you're in it.
Yeah. It's it's just funny. So I knew I was making it all wrong, and then when I finished it, I didn't know what to do with it, and then I was like, you know, do I want to enter film festivals? Not really. I kind of just wanted to sell it online, but I was trying to figure out how do you sell it online. And just around this time, when I was finishing it, like all these platforms start hitting the market. Vimeo on demand was announced. Distrify, VHX start coming to play. So you're like, oh my God, this completely changed the landscape. Because you could take any digital product, put it through these services, and they make it really nice and user-friendly for anybody to find it online, to stream to their iPhone, or they can send it up to their big screen TV if they wanted to. I mean, they just made it really easy. So I was like, this is it. I mean, if film production is no longer a barrier, meaning that there's no excuse. If a Joe Blow like myself can make a $500 feature film without a crew, and I guarantee you there's more people have done it before I have, that's not even, production is no longer a barrier. There's like not even an excuse anymore.
No.
And there's now, film distribution is no longer a barrier because these digital distribution platforms allow you to upload your digital product and sell it to the world right now immediately. So the last remaining barrier, as I've discovered, as I've gone through my blog on FilmTrooper, is film marketing, like getting heard, getting noticed. And that's only part of it, because marketing has to do what? Marketing is a communication to eventually make something happen at the end, which is you got to sell something. Now, most people go, well, if you're going to be artistic about it, then you don't even really care. You can make something cheap and just be artistic about it. But if you're trying to figure out a business part of it, a business plan behind it, marketing is a communication system or method to eventually get somebody to buy your digital good. So to answer your question about where we're going with all this stuff, is in this book I'm writing, to understand, to get backtrack. So here I'm a FilmTrooper, and I am, I'm holding these weekly podcasts, and I do these Film Marketing Friday sessions on Google Hangout, and I just had this question of like, well, wait, if film is nothing more than a digital product, just like music is just a digital product, just like ebooks, books are just digital products now. And if we look at the marketplace of Amazon, there's a huge influx of self-published authors, just independent authors that are writing books and utilizing the marketplace of Amazon to sell their digital goods. And we've been able to hear some of the outliers that have broken through. 50 Shades of Grey was an ebook when it first started out. The Martian that's coming out, that's being made, is the same thing. So there are books that have never been through the traditional publishing route. They started out as ebooks that I think pretty much gave away for free. They got this huge following, and then they turned it into traditional publishing, and then he got the movie deal,
Yeah, exactly.
So the whole concept was like, oh, okay, here's some things that were taught to us by the expert internet marketers and expert online entrepreneurs about selling a book on Amazon. And it was kind of a simple 3-step process. And I thought for the audience of FilmTrooper, I was like, well, let me give this a try. Let me write a book for Amazon, and let me apply some of the things the internet marketers and online entrepreneurs are talking about. And then if it works on a book side of things, that then perhaps it could be the same thing could be done for a digital film product. Meaning, like, let me be the guinea pig to write something stupid and put it out there and see if the sales tactics work, and then if it works, or what works, what doesn't work, and then see how we can apply it to selling a film product. Well, this book that I started writing, I didn't know what I was writing. I started writing it, and it took me down a rabbit hole. And then 300 plus pages later, I'm like, oh my God, I wrote a book. It's like,
yeah.
And on top of that, it actually helped solidify sort of my very specific message of FilmTrooper, which means like, there's a lot of film sites out there. But I was like, well, what do I really want to say? And what is my message behind FilmTrooper as, after the year of just sort of stumbling and bumbling, trying to find that out. And it's very much in the same line of what you are, set up with your blog, with you and your brother. And it's real simple. It's like, hey, filmmakers, for me and FilmTrooper, I'm all about like the single location, one location feature film. Why feature film? You know why? I don't know. I like the format. And when I say feature film, it doesn't have to be like 2 hours. It doesn't have to be 90 minutes. It could be like 65 minutes or something. You know, it's like the time is not necessarily that important. It's just however long you need to tell your story in a long form context.
Exactly.
And because, you know, even if you made it 65 to 70 minutes long, a feature film, nobody's ever going to say, gosh, that was really cool. I wish it was longer. You know?
Yeah. Oh, I got ripped off or something.
Like, it's always somebody goes, God, I wish it was shorter. You know? Nobody. But if they want it longer, what you're hoping them is that they are invested to, you know, want more from you. So that's what I mean in terms of the feature film. It's, you know, gosh, if you look at it like Dumbo, Disney's Dumbo and stuff like that, I think it was like 65 minutes, 70 minutes maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that was plenty long to tell a long form story. And the reason I talk about the long form of the feature film is that in the trades right now, like if everybody's zigging, like saying like, oh, you got to make shorter form content, you know, the millennials are, they're not into long form stuff. They don't care about television or movies. They all see it as one thing. I mean, this is sort of the press. That's what they're talking about. So my feeling is like, well, if everybody's zigging that way, I might as well zag. Meaning like zag to saying there's still an art form to the feature film, to the long form narrative storytelling. And so FilmTrooper can focus on the small one location cinema and learn from a lot of past masters of how they've done it, and to try to make films with those such limited resources. And then the FilmTrooper, what this whole book is about is saying like the big shift is like what all filmmakers want to know is like, well, how do I make and sell my film online? That's really the bottom line question. Well, how do I make and sell my film online? You know, if I make something, I put up online, well, how do I get people to notice? How do I get people to buy my stuff? I mean, that's really the heart of the question. And to answer that question, there's a much deeper, you know, deeper questions that need to be answered first. And that's what the book addresses. And when you go down this rabbit hole with me in this book, it'll explain and show you how these expert online entrepreneurs and marketers are making these very successful businesses online, but to understand how they're doing it and how a film product would fit inside this sort of business structure, that's the difference. And that's, to me, is perhaps a new way, a new method of filmmakers to earn a living. And we're talking about, these are the uber independent filmmakers. These are people like you and I who have gear in our backpack that can go out and with our family members and just make stuff. And there should be a place for us, a system in place for us to work towards that has a monetary gain, you know, in terms of return on it. And that's completely outside of the Hollywood system. And so if I can backtrack to like what the Hollywood system is, everything we're taught, like you go to film schools, like you're being taught a system where it's like, this is how films have been made. And then the only industry in the world that you can, you know, basically make a living off this is sort of like the Hollywood system, or the subset of that Hollywood system. It's just like the fragmented independent film system. But it's still based off of license control, meaning that you know, the one thing I want to try to harp on in FilmTrooper is, you know, Hollywood is not in the film business. They don't necessarily make, you know, television shows and movies. Their whole business model revolves around the exploitation of licenses. Exactly. Meaning that there's a reason why a studio needs to buy the license to this book, or needs to buy the license to this comic book property, or whatever it might be. Because once they have control of that license, then they can make movies, they can make television shows, they can make product, you know, they can make toys and stuff like that. And they learn their lesson because of George Lucas. Because when he made Star Wars, you know, he's the first one to admit this is all his wealth, all his billions come from the fact that he sold action figures. Exactly. Not that the movies, you know, the 20th Century Fox was like, hey, we got the license rights to Star Wars. George Lucas, you can have the ancillary rights, the merchandise rights. That's fine with us.
Which was kind of like not really a normal thing. Like people didn't really think much about that before.
And until he showed the industry like how much money
can be made.
Then that's when they were like, well, hell with that. We're going to make Transformers. We're going to sell all these toys, you know. Yeah. So when from the independent to understand how this works is that a film product, when you're making, is really nothing more than an advertisement. You're advertising for something bigger. And I mentioned this in one of my Filmmaking Friday sessions. The big deal is for the uber independent filmmaker, they can't compete. We'll never be able to compete on volume. Meaning that if we're going to try to work in the same playground as Hollywood, and the subset of that is the fragmented independent film scene, as they call it, where they're pushing a lot of transactions, they're pushing a lot of numbers, a lot of volume of a film product. You know, it has to have so many transactions, so many views to make up, you know, for the amount of money they put into it. And you know, the uber independent cannot compete like that online. There's no way they can, because they don't have the marketing resources and you know, the depth of I guess reach that a studio system can have. Yeah. And so we have to play the value game. So it's volume versus value. So that means that we only need to focus, the uber independent filmmaker only needs to focus on this famous Kevin Kelly blog post, 1,000 True Fans, which he says, like, if you can garner 1,000 true fans that pay you $100 a year, you'll earn $100,000 for your work, which is a very nice living. So the question is, how do you make your uber independent film worth $100 that somebody would give you every year? And, you know, because all of us we have a good shot of making, earning 1,000 fans. That's something that's tangible. Now the big question is, like, well, how do you turn this little film product that honestly most people are willing only to spend 99 cents to like $5 or $4 on, you know? Like, well, how do you make that to $100? Yeah. Well, if we learn from Hollywood, we don't. Because if Hollywood uses the film as their advertisement for something bigger, then that's the quest for the uber independent filmmaker, is like, you make your film, but you always have to view it as it's an advertisement for something bigger, and that something bigger is going to be worth the $100. So that's the big question. So I'm gonna take a quick water break, but go ahead and ask me, like, well, how are you gonna do that?
Yeah, how are you gonna do it? No, I know. I know that you have projects kind of heading into, I don't know what release stage they're at, but you've kind of, I'm thinking you've kind of not necessarily run your course with the Cube, but you've kind of want to go to your next projects, and I'm kind of sort of guessing it's in the ghost kind of one in the house type thing. Since I followed your stuff, I think I'm thinking it's something in that realm. Do you have any? I mean, you don't have to say what your plans are, but just in general, what would be just maybe an idea on how you build, say, $100 product out of that advertisement?
Oh, yeah. So, by all means, I can try to be as transparent as possible, everything I'm sharing at FilmTrooper. So you're right. So the Cube was good. It made a good run. The thing was, I made my money back. And you were talking about theatrical release. I think theatrical release is great because you don't have to. You can, with all these great services like Tug and Gather, or even yourself, you can just make a call to the local theater. Yeah, exactly. And they have a lot of dead hours. You just got to figure out like what works best. And for me here up in Portland, Oregon, there's a lot of art house theaters and that community, and there's a great price. It was like there was a theater that was in town, and I was gonna launch the Cube, and and that's something you want to have. You want to have a theatrical premiere and get a group of people together, friends, family, whatever, to share your movie. I mean, that's one of the perks that you should definitely shoot for. But if you can make some money out of it, even better. So one of the things the online entrepreneurs always have said, that if you're new to a city, like I was fairly new to Portland. I still didn't know the film community that well. One of the things they recommend is that you have to throw a networking event so that you you're seen as somebody who's a curator of other people. You're like a connector. So nobody was going to give a rat's ass about my film. So it was hard pressed to get my own family to come. But anyway, so I threw this make-believe FilmTrooper, not make-believe, but it was like this really tongue-in-cheek awards show. It was the first annual FilmTrooper Suck Up Awards. So I was going to suck up to all these other filmmakers in town who I have met, who I have had an opportunity to work with, and who I really liked, and I liked their work. So I asked them to come, and I would give them an award, and I would show the trailer or their short film prior to the screening of my film. So I got all these people together, and it was just you know, lighthearted, and it was a chance to give them a little gift and commend them for their filmmaking skills and what they've done, and bring them all together. And we got a chance to see everybody's trailer, and it was just really cool. And then my film was played, so everybody was in a good mood.
That's
and
great.
then of course you got to make sure that, here's a couple things when you're looking for a theater. One, you got to make sure parking is really easy, because the worst thing you want to do is have people frustrated, or they get a parking ticket, or they can't find parking.
Yeah.
You don't want them coming frustrated to the event. So make it really easy for them to find parking and go to the theater. Then after that, make sure there's a great bar, like in walking distance or inside the theater. So this one theater had right across the street this great bar that was just perfect. So everybody's in a good mood. You know, they go across the street and they're drinking, they're socializing, they're meeting, because, you know, everybody's got a chance to show each other's film, you know, or I was surprised a lot of them didn't know each other. So I did become that person that connected people together that night, because it had an opportunity. I just created an event where people were in a good mood to talk and share. So the film was able to make a profit. You know, I made a profit, because the thing is, like, you invite that certain filmmaker that you're going to give an award to, they get in free, but you're hoping that one or two of their friends that come see them have to pay, you know. So you did the calculations, and, you know, I made a profit. And then online, after a year, I've, you know, made enough money. You're saying, like, well, yeah, your film only cost $500, but yes, it did. But at the same time, I calculated that way because I knew I was watching this. There's so many films constantly being made for like 10,000, 50, 250,000 that were just barely, if any, or never making their money back. Like the investment money just went away. And I couldn't stomach that. I was like, I know that film product is diminishing it's just becoming a commodity. It's just so much, it's just oversaturated. Yeah. So I knew I wasn't comfortable making a film for that much money, because I didn't think it was worth it. It doesn't matter how much I believe in the project or not. I just didn't think it was worth it. Yeah. But I do feel like, yeah, you know what? My own little money, a couple $100. Let me work on my skill set. Let me become a better filmmaker this way. And I mitigated my risk. I made my money back. So in a weird way, I was at least a responsible producer that said, you know what, this film's only going to make this much money back. So you can only make the money. You can only make the film this much.
That's great. That's great. I remember that actually brings up. I don't know if you've ever read Rebel Without a Crew, the Rodriguez book, and I remember. I love that. Yeah, I love the book. It's like my Bible, and I remember reading a part, and he's like, well, he was talking about something about. If you can make your money back in your movie, you're a success. And I was like, oh, okay. if you make a movie for, you know, I think El Mariachi's $7,000 or something. Yeah. So I was like, oh, $7,000. He could have, you know, sold a couple tapes back then and made his money back. But I always stuck with me, along with many other things from that book. But that just kind of reminded me of that. Like, oh, 500, you know, make $500 back. It's, you know, you're doing good.
Yeah, but, I mean, well, I felt good. It's like, cause here's what happens is that the process of selling it online, you know, it wasn't like I could just because you put it online, you automatically get like $500. Yeah, it took a lot of work still to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what would be my unique selling proposition. And here's again, because I didn't have a discernible audience going into the Cube, you know, nobody knew about it. I just made it, and then, you know, I just kind of pushed it out onto the marketplace in terms of online, but I didn't. This is where it all comes from. Whenever you go to a film festival, there's at the end of every stinking film at any film festival, like the Q&A, somebody in the audience within the first two questions, which is always like, "What was your budget and what did you shoot it on?" Yeah, like nobody cared about whether or not your film had an important message or not. Yeah. It's like for instance, there was this whole blog post about the film Tangerine that was shot on the iPhone. Yeah, that was at Sundance, that sold at Sundance. But I don't think anybody's really talking about the film that deals with a transgender world, you know? Yeah. Nobody's talking about that. They're talking about what was this shot on?
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, that's what people are interested. So I just cut to the chase, and that was my marketing strategy for the Cube was, hey, if you're stuck trying to make a film, or if you want inspiration, then here's a film that was made for $500 without a crew, a feature film. It's, take a look at it, maybe find inspiration. And so that was it. I just cut to the chase, and FilmTrooper became sort of a platform to continue the advertising discussion of that. But yeah, like you said, it kind of run its course. And now this new film I'm working on is I'm putting myself, like you guys are, you and your brother are putting yourselves sort of like crash test dummies, as Pat Flynn talks about himself about the internet marketing world, through this next film of I'm applying everything that I talk about in the book that I'm releasing. It's like, again, it's a whole different way of like putting specifically designing your film to be an advertisement for something bigger and what that $100 product is.
Yeah.
So the difference is going forward, I wanted to make a much more I love heady films. Like 2001 is one of my favorite films. But at the same time, I love Anchorman. So like to me, The Cube in 2001 were like, I'm sorry, the Anchorman in 2001 were like The Cube for me. It's like taking ridiculous humor with like heady, thought and put it together, and what do you get?
Yeah.
So my early script for this new film, my wife just said, you just get too heady sometimes. Just make a scary film. Like, just get real basic. I'm like, okay, that's good.
Sometimes that's kind of hard though. We've had that
yeah?
issue where it's just, we try to. It's like, oh, can we just strip it down, just make it really straightforward? But yeah.
Yeah, it's, because if that's in, like, God, one of my favorite films this past year was Interstellar. It's just, for me personally, I enjoyed the deeper exploration of this wonderment. And I really got a lot more out of it, because I would read lines online, like a lot of love and hate for that film, which were people like, like scientifically implausible, the plot holes. I'm like, I don't know. I goes, you know what? All I know is like it spurred me to want to read this book called The Science of Interstellar by Kip Thorne, who's the scientific consultant on the movie. And in the book, he breaks it down, each section of that film of like what is truth, like scientific truth, and then what is speculation, and what is the best educated guess. And so the film is spread out between speculation, educated guess, and truth. And he wasn't the only scientist on it. I mean, he was the person who brought in all these other experts in the field as they tried to develop, the best possible sort of scientific basis for that film. And then Christopher Nolan told him, like, look, when the film is done, by all means, like, if I get anything wrong scientifically, please denounce it as hard as you want to. Like he's trying to make a really interesting film with all these very high-end concepts. The very deep concepts, and in the scientific world, they were able to have an opportunity to see their calculations put through the highest visual effects in the world. Because the world of education, the scientific model, they don't get to see as these beautifully rendered out like what a true black hole would look like, that kind of thing. Anyhow, I totally digress. Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
That was great. No, I remember reading I haven't seen Interstellar yet, but I remember reading something about the awe that these scientists went through when they saw some of the imagery, and they're like, yeah, that's exactly what it would look like, and it was pretty interesting.
Yes. So sorry. So we're going because the conversation we're having was like, well, how do you dumb it down? Well, it's funny. Good. So I decided, like, okay, the reason the scare genre or the horror genre, the independent horror, there is a gluttony of those types of film. Gluttony. That's terrible. A glut of film out there. There's just oversaturated. But at the core, there's a psychology behind it, why they do so well. And here's important for the uber independent filmmaker, because that genre does so well because you don't need stars.
Yeah.
The only thing people want is to be scared. They just want a good scare. And that led me down the deeper thought of like, well, why do we really want to be scared? And there's all these other great blog posts and videos that were done on YouTube. So I decided to sort of do my own and I just launched my YouTube channel like not too long ago, and so I have to look to you. Goes well, needing advice like, what recommendations do you have so that I can build my list up or my subscriber base up, to the numbers that you guys have. So I'll be looking for advice that way. So, but yeah, so the film is specifically identifying an audience that has a need and a desire to be scared, but there's something deeper. Like, because there's, you could have zombie fans or vampire fans, werewolves, whatever, or the blood and gore, or people that love like this sort of the weird serial killer type of, horror.
Yeah.
I have a particular interest in the paranormal, in that the deeper scientific questions for that. And there's a whole group of like ghost hunters, or just the people really fascinated about the paranormal and ghosts. You can still be scared, but there's still be deeper questions to be answered.
Mm-hmm.
So as I've been exploring these communities and groups, and I've been, just been an observer, I've just been reading, watching how people interact with each other, making notes. And as a creative person, you're doing your field research. You're kind of going, well, what is the world? And if I make a film for them, what would really, connect with them? As opposed to being a film auteur, what I call like the selfish filmmaker, which is like, I'm making my film and I don't care what anybody else says, but this is my vision. It's got to be like this. Well, I did that, and it was a cube, but nobody cared about it. Anyway, so I got that out of my system. And I prefer, for me personally, I'm on a mission to sort of change the perspective of the filmmaker, to not be the auteur, the selfish sort of needing to be the artist to express themselves that way, but rather an artist that is of servant to a larger audience. Mm-hmm. Meaning, like, finding an audience that I want to make a film for, and then asking myself those questions, like, well, how can I best serve them? Like, using my talents, using what I know I can do, knowing what I can make, how can I make something that they would just really love? Because I want to be, like, I submit myself to them, mm-hmm. as opposed to being somebody like, I'm going to show them, or like just pushing my work onto people, as opposed to inviting people in to say, I'm working on something, check this out. If this is working, it's not working, you're getting that feedback, like, but I'm making it for you guys. Mm-hmm. And sort of, it's what Seth Godin calls like the permission marketing. You're asking for permission to market and create something for mm-hmm. an audience. And what that does is you're trying to build a loyal following. I'm at the early stages. I'm not an expert in any of this kind of stuff. I am just an enthusiast that has grabbing what has worked for other entrepreneurs and online marketers. And I'm just somebody who's connecting the dots and asking the question of, how can this be applied to the uber independent filmmaker? And as I'm asking those questions, I'm saying, like you and your brother, I'm going to throw myself out there and I'm going to make something, and I'm going to share how I'm doing it. And if it works, cool. If it doesn't, at least you can learn from me, so you don't have to go through the same, struggles that I did.
Exactly.
So I am going through the process of writing this new story with this new context in mind, meaning, like, I will write, if everybody tells us we got to know who our audience is first, we got to build our audience first. Like, well, how do you do that? Well, I have to show how to do that through my own, crappy way, and try to share that. And then it's fun, because what it does is it also puts accountability for you to make your film. Because now I put myself out there. I got to make it now,
Yeah.
It's not like it's something I can go away and like, oh, maybe I'll get to it. It's mm-hmm. like, no. Now I'm excited, because every day, like, I go, okay, I got to push forward, and how am I going to make this film? And I want to make it the best thing I can with the limitations. Mm-hmm. It's just a simple premise of a 12-year-old girl who is a latchkey child who comes home alone after school. The power goes out and things go bump. So there you go. I mean, there's more to it, but that's the premise, because you're like, okay, I get it. I can see how that could all played out in one single home. Mm-hmm. And so that's it. So now I've confined myself to the one location, which is my home. And now I have to use all my creative, energies and inspiration, and just work hard at trying to construct a really fun, scary story without getting too heady to serve this particular audience the best I can. And so now if I make the same film, like $500,000 or whatever it is to make this film, I'm hoping that I have a better chance of success based off my past experience of, selling the cube and marketing the cube. Because now I'm like, okay, I made something really cheap. I made my money back, but now I want to supersize it. I want to make something, again, really dirt cheap, but I want to supersize it by targeting a much specific audience that has a much greater fervor about this topic. So let me create something for them, and let's see what the results are after, selling this digital product to them. I'm hoping I can make it, even more money, like $1,000, $5,000 or whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's great.
My goals are small, but the bottom line is that one day, whether or not it be you and Dan or myself or somebody else, somebody's going to make some dirt cheap movie. They're going to upload directly online, and they're going to sell like 1 million copies. And as soon as somebody does that, remember the app world.
Yeah.
Somebody made a fart app and sold it for 99 cents and made a couple million. They had a couple million downloads. It's just, a simple programmer in their garage. Like, here's a stupid little app. But I'm gonna look at this. And then there was like 10 dozen different fart apps out there. But who's to say that can't happen to the independent film world? Because as soon as somebody does that, that's when you're going to see all the press and everything, that all those heads turn. Like, what? You know how it is. It's exactly. that famous analogy of, nobody thought they could break the 4-minute mile until somebody did, and now everybody does it. So it's like the El Mariachi.
Yeah.
Who could have thought you could make a $7,000 feature film back then? Somebody did. And then who did he inspire? He inspired Shane Carruth, who made Primer in one Sundance of 7 years ago or whatever it was. Because Shane Carruth read Rebel Without a Crew, said, hey, it only costs you $7,000 to make a feature film. That's what his budget was based off that book.
Yeah.
So the whole point was like, until somebody breaks the mold, we all go down this path of thinking like, it all has to be this way, all has to be this way.
Yeah. I'm
saying that something's going to happen where somebody's going to have absolutely no involvement with Hollywood. They're just making some cool digital product, a film, put up online, sell directly to an audience, and we're going to see results like, millions. And then that's going to change the landscape. So I don't know who's going to get there first. So, and I don't think, not to say that I will, but at least I have a much clearer vision than I've ever had before of sort of how the online world works a little bit, to say maybe a film product will fit into this business model this way. And it's a total different business model than what's being taught to us by the Hollywood system or even the independent film system. Because you're not selling it off to territories, you're not selling it to television, nothing like that. This is straight up digital product sold directly online to an audience, but understanding how that all fits in. So real quick, I know it's going late here, you would ask, how do you take the $3 film product that you sell online to an audience, how do you make that the $100 product? Okay, here it goes. So I'm making the film. It's a ghost film, right? So we'll just stay in that genre.
Great.
Knowing that the end result is going to be essentially, I'm doing all this hard work to sell a latte. A latte costs what, $3-4, right? That's how much the film is going to cost when you sell it online. It's going to cost. You're going to sell it, rent it, whatever it is, for $3 to $4.
Yeah.
But I can't compete against Starbucks. They have volume. They have a lot of stores, a lot of volume, and they have an addictive product, meaning that people will buy the same $3, $4 latte day in, day out because it has an addictive property to it. With the film product, it's a one-off product. It's done. Like, so you watch it, you're like, yeah, check out your movie. That's cool. Done. Yeah. It's not they're not going to pay for it over and over again. So understanding how that business model works, then you use that as an advertisement. So my film has to be an advertisement for something bigger, and that bigger something could be was like, you can watch the film for $3-4 or whatever it is, but you can get this bonus package, which includes like this book or audiobook or this video series of like the 25 most haunted places in North America. Okay. So it's like, okay, so now the ghost people are like, or the community is like, oh, cool, I love your movie or whatever. I dig your movie, but I like all these other things too. Like, oh, like here's a video series on the 25 most haunted places in America. Or you go even bigger. Like, we're selling $1,000 package where you can go on a ghost hunting trip with me, you know, for the weekend out in this, like, the most haunted hotel in Colorado or whatever it is.
Your house.
So, yeah, exactly, my house or something like that. The whole point was like, you know, you get like enough fans to say you got 10 people that throw down $1,000 to go on this this weekend ghost hunting escapade, you know, so you weigh out like, you know, cost 10,000, but maybe the whole trip only costs you 2,000. So whatever by all expenses, you know, subtracted, you might make $5,000 off it or something. I don't know. So the whole point is you're trying to create these things where that eventually you're trying to create like the $100 product. And it may be something like crazy as you're an affiliate salesperson. So it might be where like for $100, you get the full blown ghost hunting gear, you know, it includes the camera, you know, EVP recorder, whatever it might be. So somebody goes to your site, they see your movie sparks conversation, but you have to have like this, they call it a sales funnel in the online marketing world, business world. You have to take these people down a funnel where they like you, they trust you, they know who you are, and they're more inclined to like buy your film, but they're also more inclined like, I like all the other stuff you have too. You know, like I love all these other products that you're selling because they are in alignment with what your whole message is about your film, about all this other stuff. This is all the ancillary products. Like I can't sell action figures, but I can try to sell some other digital media or digital goods that are in the same alignment, you know, in the same headspace that the audience would come in there in the first place.
Yeah.
And again, you don't need to sell 1 million tickets, right? You only need to find those 1,000 people that are loyal to you for that year to give you $100, you know, for that year to be successful. Now, the same amount of effort it goes into trying to sell a $100 product to 1,000 people is the same amount of effort to sell it to 10,000 people. So if you get 10,000 people that like what you're doing, that's $1 million, whatever. That's $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's like once the uber independent filmmaker can get a really good perspective of like, okay, I'm not playing the volume game. I can't compete against Hollywood. I don't have the marketing resources to get a huge marketing campaign out there to get awareness, to get so many people wrapped up in seeing my film where I need to sell, you know, 1 million units or something, you know, but I know I can get a concentrated group of people, maybe 1,000 to 10,000 people that potentially, you know, buy something from me. But I know that if I'm going to use the George Lucas model, you know, if Star Wars was an advertisement for all the toy lines of things to come, like where can my film be an advertisement for my own toy line or my own, you know, all these other ancillary products that you can create that are going to be worth $100. So that is really the basic premise that needs to change for the uber independent filmmaker, and which, you know, I talk about more in detail, almost like a step-by-step process of it in the new book that it's coming out. And you can learn more about it over at filmtrooper.com. But anyhow, yes. Yeah. I'm sorry I talked to you. No, once you get me going, I get going. So.
You know, it kind of reminds me of just listening to you on other podcasts. So I find myself just kind of listening because I'm used to it. It's funny. But no, I've read your what you have online. I think I'm part of your sort of launch group, and whatever, like all the stuff's great, and I can't wait for it to come out, and I'll be one of the first buyers for sure. Yeah, I guess we could wrap it up here. Yeah, where can people find you? FilmTrooper.com, and you're on Twitter.
Yeah, just at FilmTrooper on Twitter and FilmTrooper.com.
Yeah,
I mean it's a pretty straightforward little site. You know, it's like you go there like, oh, there's only a few options, so you know, but you know, I mean, there's.
Great, I go there all the time, and I love your podcast and everything. I like following you. You're an inspiration, and that's why I wanted you on this podcast. And yeah, I wish I had more. I just find myself listening to you, so it's I know
I'm
invisible,
but I know it's a little late. I I know it's running late, but I'm fascinated. Like I said, any advice you have, like as I start, it's funny. It's the tortoise and hare thing. It's like you can go as fast. It's the whole fable of like the hare running so fast that he loses the race to the tortoise that is just slow and steady. There's a saying in the world of client services that you can have when you're like somebody like a contractor, a video production person or something, and you need to deliver a video or animation or graphic or website to a client. The reality is that you have to tell them you can have it fast, cheap, or good. You can only pick two.
Yeah.
So it's really funny because you think about it, it's that, if you want to make it good as an uber independent filmmaker, you want to make your stuff good, but you don't have money, so you're going to have to make it cheap. So what does that mean? You're going to make it cheap and make it good, which means you can't go fast. So the whole audience building, the whole building up your loyalty and stuff like that will have to be the tortoise. You're going to have to go slow. Where Hollywood, if they want it fast, if they want it, good, but they don't want to be cheap, they have to pay. That's why they spend money.
It's going to be
so
expensive.
They're going to go fast and good. They want to go fast and good, but it's not going to be cheap for them, which is why, all these, comic book movies are like, boom. They're just in a release schedule. They've got their whole thing released. Like every 2 years, every year we have to release a certain movie here.
Yeah.
So all this money's been poured into it because it's like it's got to be fast and it's got to be good, and you got to just go, and money it's just thrown at the problem. And the uber independent filmmaker doesn't have that luxury. Yeah. So they're gonna have to go slow.
Yeah.
So with that said, I just launched my YouTube channel. I know that you guys have had your YouTube channel for a while, and you've got a good number of views on your, and we're talking about, some people out there have like, they develop, I have a friend that has his channel, 25,000 subscribers, 100,000 subscribers. They get views and, the thousands all the time. And over time they've got, over a million, billion views. And those are sort of the different, that's sort of the YouTube people that we're aspiring to.
Yeah.
But as I am just somebody literally just starting out, but I know that I need to just constantly make videos weekly to add to the consistency. But what advice have you seen, or did you see any bump at one day or one particular video that just got you so many more subscribers than another day?
I think it kind of boils down to like what you were saying in one of your posts about how your film audience, like a filmmaker audience, isn't really your movie audience. And
right.
What I've realized with my YouTube channel is it's predominantly other beginning filmmakers or people like us, and they're trying to find certain techniques and stuff. So a lot of my tutorials actually have fairly decent views, and I think that's where I get most of my subscribers. But it's been, again, very slow, just here and there, and then just slowly picks up. And I actually wish I had more answers because I'd love to duplicate my growth more. But I just kind of consistent uploading and actually commenting. I actually found this little technique I've been doing is just going to other videos and other beginning filmmaking videos with a lot more hits and views that I have, and actually just helping out people on there asking questions to that video. And I actually think that really helped. I've been doing that for the last month, and it's I think my numbers are significantly higher than it was the previous before that. So I don't know if that's a little tip.
I think I love it.
Tip to use. And I actually found a way because I tried to. I don't like, because you can click on the guys. This is getting really kind of inside rambling, but my name's, when I comment, you're essentially, you have a link on a very high viewed video. Say you can find a video that has like 1 million views. It's like a tutorial on something, and there's a question, and these people get a lot of questions and comments, so they can't really answer everyone. So like if you were there with an answer or just a guidance,
you could essentially have a direct link right off a high viewed video. Yeah, just a little tip there, I guess.
That is a great tip. That's a great tip. And no, it's worthwhile. Yeah, there's so many. There's one thing I definitely know is like I don't know anything, you know. like I know
well,
I know what I
right?
know.
You're always I think that's one thing we were talking about, like the auteur, you know, the auteur theory and all that, and all the, you know, oh, I'm a filmmaker, I'm going to make my movie, is like that whole like, oh, you stop learning at a point, and
right.
you know everything, and you know, I think every movie, everything you do, you're learning, and like I'm learning stuff every day, and about, you know, I don't know, just I stress that a lot in when I help people out. It's just you're always learning, and people want that quick fix and the quick answer, but it's really that tortoise thing. It's it's all patience.
It is. There's some good advice.
It's frustrating even thinking that sometimes it is frustrating thinking that, like, trying to believe that thing, but you know, it really is a patience thing. But I really like talking to you here. This has been great. Hopefully maybe get you on another time, maybe. And I'd love to come down to Portland for a premiere of your ghost movie, and especially if there's a bar. So
oh yeah, there's lots of bars.
I'm Canadian, so I'm supposed to.
Is that where you guys are? Where are you located? Because all your films are this beautiful, like, you know, scenery, very much, you know, up here, like in Oregon. Where are you guys?
Well, we're in Vancouver Island.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not. It actually just me and my wife went down to the Portland last April.
Well, I know that we're.
It was good. The first time I've been there, but it's beautiful down there, and had to go to Voodoo Donuts a couple times and hung out.
Now here's the thing: if you go to Portland, there's so the Voodoo is fun, but the really good donuts are at Blue Star Donuts.
Oh, is that the real inside Portland?
Yeah, yeah. It's like like so, like not say all the like Voodoo is very famous, like outside, and there's two of them. There's like one on the west side on and that's like a tiny little shop that just has line around the you know, a block.
Oh, yeah.
And there's another Voodoo Donuts across the way on the southeast side that is bigger store, and that doesn't have many people. So it's like all the locals, if you want to get Voodoo Donuts, you go over that one because you know it's less crowded.
Oh, yeah.
You get your donuts. But you know, if you're a donut, you know, you like your aficionado. What's the word? I can't even pronounce it.
Aficionado.
Thank you. Then you would probably go to Blue Star. But anyhow.
Yeah, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you so much, and you forgive me. I get excited and I talk a lot, so it just kind of goes.
No, it's great. It's all great content, and it's really, you know, you're doing great stuff, and I think that's one thing that really caught my. I don't know how I found you exactly, but I've been following you for about almost a year now, I think, and maybe even more. But it had to be something. It's something you spoke to me that you were on the same page, and I just love what all you're trying to do, and yeah, just good luck with everything.
Thank you, and vice versa. I mean, I like the idea that we're all this together. I mean, just because, you know, you hear these famous stories of like back in the day of like, you know, all the USC film school brats or the New York film scene, you know, like other filmmakers helping out other filmmakers. There was like a time, like I remember when George Lucas showed his early cut of Star Wars to like Spielberg and De Palma and, you know, Coppola. You know what I mean? Like they had their crew, and I'm thinking to myself like, but the great thing about being online is we have the whole world.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'll be able to find our crew or your tribe, you know, and your success is anybody's success. And I like this idea of the online entrepreneur because they see the world through abundance and not scarcity.
Yeah.
And I'm very excited to see everybody else succeed as well, because I'm learning. I'm like, oh, how'd you do that? That's cool. How'd you get those numbers? Or like, wait, how do you do that trick? Or, well, that's a cool. I never thought about shooting the scene like that. That's cool. You know, like. And then when we make our films, you know, that's one of the goals of this YouTube series, one location cinema. It's a highlight, you know, one location cinemas from the past and the future. I mean, the future, past and the present, And then also just give a shout out to fellow film troopers. So, you know, some more people come on and be like, hey, oh, my film got featured on, you know, the FilmTrooper video series or something. It's just my way of saying, you know, here's some cool people I've met doing FilmTrooper, and look at their really cool films, like, you know, stuff that I was like, man, this is so much better than with a cube. So anyway, very cool.
That's great. It's awesome. We'll have to get you on again once we get a little more up and running. But
get your brother on and the baby and everything.
Thanks a lot, man.
All right,
I'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jamie. Okay,
bye.
Thanks for listening, guys. I really hope that you got some things out of that. Scott has so many ideas, and again, but like he says in the interview, he's not an expert. He's just he's studied and researched a lot, and he's learning as he goes, just like I am, just like me and my brother are trying to do. We're sort of like these crash test dummies for these backyard indies that are being made, and I want to show the triumphs, but I also want to show things we could have done better or should have done better in the first place with you know, shooting and making movies, and as well as releasing them. And that's just basically the whole concept of this podcast. I really hope that you guys enjoy it, and that you're getting value out of this. That's kind of what I'm doing it for. I'm doing it for you guys, and I want to provide as much information just to help you guys as much as possible. That's kind of just the whole idea. I'm going to sign off. My name is Jamie Francis. Thanks for coming by, and make sure you join the special Facebook group redirected to the Facebook page of my champion first listeners, and I really hope you join us on there. I got a great little group going right now, and they're helping shape the show, and that I would love for you to join it if you're not already. Thanks a lot for listening, and now go out there and make your stories come to life.